Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to another Supercoach Insider podcast. My name is Swizz. Continuing on with our team-by-team series, we've got the second version of the Richmond Preseason Team and Supercoach Discussion. It is my favourite team. It's also our special guest's favourite team, the Scodfather, Abs, from the Scodfather Podcast. How are you, mate?
Thank you very much, Swiss, for having me on, and I'm doing excellent. And this team, it looks like a premiership team to me. It looks like we could be on it for a big year, maybe. Okay, maybe not, but we'll talk about that together.
Mate, I don't know if we'll be on for a big year if we're playing Eastern Footy League Divi 1 this season. It's Jesus, the shambles, but it's very Supercoach relevant, so that's the main thing, isn't it?
Well, I'm not even sure if we're Supercoach relevant, but we should have the rookies that may be Supercoach relevant if they get games. So this is a tricky team to virtually preview because the senior players, we don't know how good they're going to be with players missing out, extra responsibility. So it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, no, for sure, mate. Before we jump into that discussion, as always, check us out on all our social media platforms, in particular the YouTube, Spotify. Get in contact with us via X Supercoach Insider 100 or Swizz26. Mate, most people already know where to find you, but if they haven't, how do they find you?
On YouTube, just type in Spuds and I'll appear, or the Scodfather. It's one of the two. So they'll find me.
Word of 2025, the Spuds.
It's actually my special discount code for JD's booklet. So I'm very happy with that.
I was actually about to bring that up. What's your code? So yeah, the Spuds is for you. I think Swizz 10 is mine. So you're doing good work there. You've got your preseason article for the Tigers coming up, mate.
I'm looking forward to. I've actually done a lot of research for the Tigers because I actually, as you know, we're both in the Richmond forum, so I've dug in deep and I've asked about 10 different Richmond supporters their opinions because all opinions are different. Everyone's got different opinions on the team. It's just so it's mixed with so many youngsters. We don't know who's going to start. So I've gone top notch to the people with knowledge. I think at the Richmond Club or Richmond Forum. Even yourself, I'll be approaching as well for some info. So hopefully we'll do some good research and get the right 22 starting players.
I like it, mate. Well, we've got a starting 23 there. Couple of changes I made because of you and your research and stuff, which I'm happy to actually. It's more me arguing your team today, but no, I do like it. So we've got Broad, who could either be full back or back pocket, but we've got Broady there, Miller, Floston, Shorty, Blight, and Brown, as Al Patton and I talked last time. It was just a question about what happens to Bolter. And literally after we'd done the podcast, I think 4 hours later, the news came out that he'll be missing the first month. So that opens up the door for Blight and also maybe Jacob Kaczynski. So there is a note there in Nerds' training notes where he has been training back as well. So they do have a couple options down there as the tall defender. Then we've got Ralph Smith, Taranto, Banks. Banks could easily be off the halfback too, but Richmond are a little bit of a short of wingman. Mansell, we've gone Bauer as much as I like Fawcett, but yeah, Bauer, Seth Campbell, Sam Lalor, the number one pick, Tommy Lynch and Seth Green, Nank, Ross, Hopper, and then Caleb Smith, Prestia, McAuliffe, and Ryan with Morris Rioli dropping back as sub. Thoughts, mate? What actually, a lineup.
We've got Lalor in the team twice, so maybe we're going to make a change. He's got two roles. He's on the bench and in the forward line, so I think we made a boo-boo.
No, not on mine. Maybe you're looking at the older one, but no, definitely isn't on the bench for both now. I have updated that, mate.
Oh, you have updated. Okay.
Yeah.
I see different, but that's well, as I said, that's a premiership looking team for me. It's as a one-eyed Richmond supporter, I think we've got a big chance. Maybe not. Okay, maybe I'll take that off, but we're going to struggle. Okay, we're going to struggle badly this year, and even last year, the first 5 or 6 games, as we were talking off air, we were saying we were very competitive. I'm not sure how competitive we're going to be this year. It is worrying, but at the same time, we're rebuilding and we're going to blood the youngsters. So I don't see a problem with it. You know, we've had our glory. I've experienced the 80s and the 90s. You're probably too young for that, but I've been through all that. I've experienced it. And I think our rebuild will be a lot quicker than it was in the 80s and 90s, we waited 37 years for the next premiership. So hopefully our rebuild is going to be very, very close, maybe a 5-year rebuild, and we're back in the finals again, hopefully.
Hopefully, mate. Yeah, no, I only copped the 90s going through school. So I've probably only got half the bad times. But yeah, no, it's amazing to all think like it's now 8 years ago now since you and I were at a final together, and yeah, how time flies. Where we were flying, and the world was our oyster, and now it's it's all going downhill. But that's part of the journey, and it's going to be an exciting one watching these kids develop.
And that final that I went to, I wouldn't have gone there if it wasn't for you, because you gave me the tickets. So I was very happy that you're able to give me tickets to the finals, because I'm superstitious. And believe it or not, I'm actually not a Richmond member. And since I haven't been a Richmond member, Richmond won a grand final. So I stopped my membership at the end of 2016. And as soon as 2017 came along, my membership expired. I said, I'm not going to be a member this year. I'm going to give it a rest. And they won a premiership. So since then, I don't become a member because it's my fault. I blame myself. Just calm it down.
Mate, it was working for us, maybe, yeah. But hopefully maybe you should have probably got a membership for a couple of years just to be like, no, the moment I cancel again, we're going to win again. But no, mate, more than happy to continue to organise your finals tickets. Hopefully it's sooner rather than later. So where do we start? I guess it's the rookies, mate. I think that's the big focus there. The big one, Sam Lalor. He's actually jumped up huge in percentage. He's now 34%. A few people were a bit cagey, I don't know. And then he's been having a really good preseason. I think also once Josh Smillie entered the rehab group, a few people have sort of found the money and pivoted it up to Lalor. What are your kind of expectations there? And is that somebody you're looking at?
The problem with Lalor is the price, $205K, something like that, I think. But
203, yep.
203, yeah. I don't like spending big dollars on rookies because it means that maybe I can't get a Butters, and instead I have to settle for someone at 550K. So I don't splash the cash unless I think that rookie is going to be someone like a Dacos or a one of those jet rookies that scores 90s. Lalor, I can see going 70s. The role, as you've put him there, you put him in the forward line, and that's where I think he'll play. So he may get some midfield minutes, but he's still a kid, and we've got bigger bodies there. We've got Hopper. What's the point of having Hopper if you're not going to play him in the midfield? We're paying $700K for Hopper. So and we've got Taranto. So the big bodies are there. We've still got McAuliffe, whose body is building. So I think Lalor will become a champion. He'll become a star, but I don't think he's going to do that in the first year. Maybe next year or the year after, as his fitness improves, as his body gets bigger. I mean, it's already big, but as it gets bigger, it becomes like mine, okay, a very strong body. So as soon as I can't do it. I can't pay 205K for Lalor. I don't know. I haven't seen his junior figures. I haven't seen what he's been scoring in the juniors. I'm going to have a look at that soon. I might have to ask my mate, Al Payton. Maybe he's done the research. So the rookie department is not my specialty. So at the moment, I like to chop cheap, and Lalor's way out of budget for me.
Yeah, I haven't found the cash, so I went there and I've put him in for now. But I'm always big on the whole idea of I would rather the most expensive guy, and then I can go down from there. Much easier than the other way around. So I'm not too sure who the best rookie is going to be out of that sort of group with Sardis and Draper, and there's a bunch of guys there who are highly priced. So I found the cash, and if it's Lalor, cool. I've got him. If it's not, then I can just go down. And it's a very easy swap for me. For now, but I do agree. I think, though, he is one injury away from being dominant for us. So if he Hopper is probably the one. We know Precious, built with sticky tape, so old meatball there will probably go down soon. But we still got McAuliffe. I know Dow's still on the list, but if I feel like if Prestia and say Hopper both went down, then Lalor's not just time on ground, but CBAs will dramatically increase. And yeah, it's obviously somebody that we would then have to seriously look at from then. Like Supercoach, like his numbers last year were pretty good. Like if you look at his Vic Country, he was averaging 33 touches a game, and there was plenty of contested possessions in there. So he needs to be around the guts. I think that's, if you're playing forward in this Richmond lineup, you're going to struggle. But yeah, I think you'll get a taste for it early, but it might be a bit of a slow burn. But yeah, I think opportunities throughout the season will probably open up as long as his body holds up, which has been an issue in the past as well.
Yeah, going back to your exact points there, saying he's going to wait upon an injury and then the slow burn section. Okay, that's the part that worries me. I mean, the success to build your team very quick is instant cash. Okay, we need cash. So I had slow burners last year in my team, and those slow burners killed me and destroyed my team. So if he's going to be a slow burner, especially at 205k, if we have to wait till say round 4 or 5 before he gets that midfield time, it's going to be probably around 8 or 9 or even 10 before we see him make decent cash. So is it worth it? And that's a thing that has me confusion right now.
Yeah, mate, and I agree. As I said, it's more he's there as the place getter for me, and I can kind of see how it sort of comes together in those 2 preseason games. Richmond's got a weird one. We're playing Perth time, 9:30 a.m. against West Coast on a Monday, so probably gonna have to watch that on replay. It's gonna be hard to sort of watch that live for myself. And then the big one is the Collingwood one. I feel like that could be, Collingwood will probably have their better squad in because they'll be preparing for that round 0 match. We might still rotate, but at the same time, there might be a good opportunity there for, say, a Caleb Smith to spend a bit of time running with, say, a Dacos or a couple of their better players just to continue to learn and develop.
Yeah, and also got to keep in mind that we've still got Smillie to come back in. Yeah,
yes.
And we've still got Smillie to come back in as well. So Smillie might even get that spot if there is an injury in that midfield. So we might even see before late. I mean, Lalor will still get some mid times, but I don't think it'll be over 40%. I think he's going to spend 40%, maybe 30%, and the rest will be shared around. And we saw Richmond with their CBAs last year. There's about 20 players in there sharing the CBA, so that they do tend to spread the CBAs around a lot.
Well, you are right. Josh Smillie is more the contested beast as well. So once he sort of comes in and gets his opportunity, he's more likely to take some of those CBAs too. So it might even make Lalor even a slower burn, which then definitely has concern. So I think the 34%, you need to probably tread lightly. And maybe it's the same strategy as me, where you've got him there because it's the most expensive, way easier to go down than the other way around, which I don't mind that as we lead into preseason. I've always been a big fan of, try to maybe load up with the more expensive rookies if you can, if you've got the cash. And then, if some of the cheaper ones put their hand up, it's way easier to go down to them. And then all of a sudden you've got all this other cash to play in and potentially add some extra value picks. I don't mind that just for now, and we just kind of wait. But temper your expectations of Sam Lalor. Caleb Smith is one that I do like. It's all role dependent, but again, I feel like he's one injury away from really having a real impact. There's no probably wingers that's sort of putting their hand up. I feel like it's a rotation between kind of Banks and Campbell, but Banks can go back half back, who I think, there's a real chance he could be in that role, but we still need that 7th defender. And because we've been absolutely decimated, especially the talls already this preseason, they've got guys like Broad who can play taller, which means probably a smaller can come in like a Caleb Smith and, at least rotate off that 7th defender.
Yeah, and we've lost Rioli, so we need someone that can run and carry that ball out of defence. The good thing about Smith is his price. It's a good price, and he doesn't need to average 80 or 70. He could just average 60, and you're going to make about 180k. So even if he averages 50, you're going to make 130k, and he'll comfortably average 50. He could go 60. Not sure if he's a good player to have on field, but on the bench, no problems. So if I see him playing in round 1, the chances are I'm just going to lock in my team because it's actually a decent price. Job security should be strong. He may have some sub-affected games, which may be a problem. However, depends on whatever players from other teams are available. But Smith could have a good role, especially as a running halfback or winger, as you mentioned. So hopefully he fits the bill for us.
Yeah, and I have said this for those people if you haven't watched my sort of team reveal, maybe go back because I have time stamped about strategies, but kind of a rough brief about one of the strategies I talked about was like a Caleb Smith type, for example. He goes quite well with, say, a Bo Allen. So you can potentially in round 2, 3, 4 have the emergency on him because Richmond do play early games on the Saturday. And then if he doesn't come off, you keep, say, a Bo Allen on field. If Caleb Smith does come off, well, you've potentially got, James Leake in round 2, round 3, Callum Mills, round 4, you might have Sada Al-Hadi or Zach Reed that you can put on field and then take Caleb Smith's score. So there is a way there to sort of loophole with your bench defender if Caleb Smith in one of those games gets like a 70 or an 80, which could be very handy.
Agree, and it's Sal Habibi. Okay, that's how we pronounce Sal's name. So it's Sal Habibi.
Mate, I've had 4 different pronunciations from the community so far, and so I like, and they're all different, which is great. So I'll keep that one on mind.
Sal Habibi, I just made up, but it sounds much easier. So that's why I mentioned it.
I think if anybody's seen the Essendon pod with Joe's Lebanese, so he had a great pronunciation for it. All right, we'll continue on. There's probably one other rookie which we probably do need to cover, and it is Smillie. We did talk about him. It's hard to start, but because obviously he's had the injury interrupted preseason. However, if Smillie was to come back for the preseason game against Collingwood or named round 1, do you get tempted by him because he is at that slighter, cheaper price than the other premium midfielders like Langford, Draper, Jager, all of them?
Yeah. The reason I would like Smillie ahead of Langford, for example, okay, is because Langford has more competition in that midfield at Melbourne. I mean, we've got a few players now they've mentioned, and they're also competing to play finals. Well, whereas Richmond's not. So Richmond's going to blood the youngsters. Melbourne can afford to blood youngsters, but maybe in different positions. Whereas with Richmond, they can afford to put a player like Smillie because he can't play any other position. So Langford, in his junior years, was actually a half forward mid. So he actually can play a lot of half forward, which I can see him doing. So the only thing is I like the Sydney boy a lot. I forget his name. Let me find it. Okay.
Ben Patton? So the midfielder.
Yeah,
Sheldrick. Yeah.
I love Sheldrick a lot. So I can't see our boy Smillie outscoring a player like Sheldrick. I can't see Smillie outscoring a player like Smith. So it's also because he's young. So if he's going to play round 1, I'm probably going to lock him in. I will lock him in, but it'll be with hesitation because of the fact that we've got so many of the bigger bodies in there first. So maybe, I'm not sure. They're not playing forward as well, but it'll be interesting anyway. He'll probably be in the rotations, maybe 4th or 5th midfielder. But from what we're hearing, he's not going to play round 1.
Yeah, that's the most likely thing. But, and you'd think they will take their time with obviously a young fellow like that. But in saying that, it's, injuries, people can recover quicker than others. But he is in 30% of teams at the moment. So those 30% you do need to watch very closely because at the moment he doesn't look like lining up for round 1. Another highly owned player who's still in 30% of teams, and he is rookie priced, is Tom Lynch. Now, I was pretty hot on Tom Lynch until he had the concussion, and I feel like now he's probably going to spend a bit more time in that goal square and leading up from there. Are you the same, or are you still hot on Lynchy?
In my first team that I created, Lynch was there first straight away. And then I had to think about it. And once I start thinking, the more I think, the more I feel that I've made a wrong decision because at that price, at 180K, we discuss players of the caliber of the midfield rookies that are hot. So, and for that reason, I'd rather go for a cheap rookie and just have his score taken out of the system. So when you got players like Smith at 194K, Sheldrick at 161K, I can't pay 180K for a player that plays in the Richmond forward line that may not even get any action. So, plus his injury risk every third week or fourth week, something's wrong with him. Okay, something happens. He become a grandpa, the young man. So, unfortunately, I can't start him.
No, I do agree with that. It's kind of hard with some of these other guys who look like they're going to be best 20, well, probably even best 18. Your Banks, your Mansells, they all seem to have some actually decent roles and job security. But it's just the price, like as you said earlier, it's hard to sort of start these guys who are in that sort of 200 to 300 range, because now you're expecting to see sort of 80s, not sort of 60s where we're hoping for like a Caleb Smith.
Yeah, the 200 to 250K range, even the 200 to 300K range is the most dangerous range in Supercoach from what I've learnt over the years as I've used these kind of players, and they've all let me down. So if you get any of these wrong, you have to do correction trades, and it's even harder to correct them because you can't find replacements for them. So I've just completely avoided most of these 200 to 300K range players. I don't actually think I've got any. Actually, I only got one in my team, and that's everyone's got him, which is Caleb Daniels, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, no, I actually agree as well. I don't think I've got anyone else in that range. As I was quickly scrolling through my updated team, no, I don't. So yeah, no, and it does make it hard with those sort of guys. Gipkus and Trainer is still quite highly owned. I think they're both about 13%. Cross Gipkus off, he's not going to be there round one. Even though I've said preseason, they're still not going to play in round one. And Trainer, it's a must watch that. I still don't think he's the preferred option early. The kid's doing everything right. He'll get opportunities, maybe a downgrade option. Yeah, for sure. If he's there in round one, yeah, all in. But I don't think he's the option for round one.
Yeah, and in regards to downgrade option, that's a beautiful downgrade option. Like he was virtually a top 5 pick. We got him at top 20 or whatever we got him at. So, and he's cheap. He's cheap as chips. Or what is it, 113K or 115K, something like that. But yeah, he's a definite watch as a downgrade option with Trainer.
And that's the thing with these guys. Like, you don't want them all starting round 0 and round 1. We want them coming throughout the season. We need options to downgrade to. So yeah, the hope is like him, Taj Hotton's another one. Come middle of the year or some point throughout the year, when we're trying to go one up, one down, we need somebody who's coming in who we can go down to. So that's where your Hottons and your Smileys, hopefully, Gipkus. Yeah, so there's a whole bunch of them that we kind of would prefer to hold off a few weeks, get a couple games under the belt so we can see how they're scoring, and then make the decision about downgrading to bring one in.
That's the thing with the Richmond team. Most of these players, in the rookies anyway, are all downgrade options. Probably not starting options, but good downgrade options. So you'd want to keep an eye on all of them in the VFL and see how they're going and track them, because they're all going to be stars, but not immediate stars. But they have potential to at least generate some cash for us later on, when we virtually need the cash after the first batch disappear.
And I think that's the hard thing, because everybody's seeing sort of Richmond thinking rookies. Yeah, I want a piece of that action, but it's hard because there's multiple reasons why a lot of these guys aren't going to start. We should talk about 2 players that are of interest in our teams, and definitely getting a lot of talk about the community. I think the first one, who I think is only in 2% of teams, and he is being overlooked massively in the ruck line, is Nank the Tank, Richmond skipper, Toby Nankervis. What are your thoughts about Big Toby, mate?
I've locked him in my team, and he was locked in my team once I did his review. I didn't know he was going to be this good when I did the review, and then I saw his draw. His first 5 games, it has the potential to go at 130, 140. They're huge games, like easy for him. His draw gets harder after those 5 games, but if you want to go off to a flyer and just have a player that no one owns. Nank, the tank, is a weapon. I think I really like him. And if you go from what he did last year, he was going at 120 towards the back end of the season when he had an easier draw. And he's got that draw at the start of the season this year. So you're virtually not going to get this kind of scoring out of him if you bring him in late, because his draw will get harder. But while it's easy, you might as well bank the points, and then you can just switch him to a Gorn later on. And just the switch between Gorn and Nank is probably about 80K difference at the moment, or 70K, whatever it is. But you could probably actually make profit on it. Nank could probably overtake Gorn's price, and then it could be a 150K switch, and then you just make the switch later on. That's my plan anyway.
No, it's a good plan. I currently have Gorn. Again, I like the expensive guy where I can go down, depending on what I see. But Nank is very firmly has come in. I said a few times with my ruck discussion, it was Cherry, Gorn, TDK, Sean Darcy, and then the rookies. But Nank, and especially I know you've reviewed it, we've talked about it at length on other pods as well, where Nank has definitely come into my thinking now. And Shrek's dropped out, and even TDK's kind of dropped out with their news. I feel like now for me it's Cherry, Gorn, Nank, and then I'll go two of them with a rookie ruck.
Yeah, I've gone English. I really like English, and I'm starting, because apparently the latest news right now, according to all the radio stations, is that English will play round one, from what I'm hearing. And if that's the case, 2 years ago, English had the same problem where he didn't train in the preseason. I didn't start him because of this reason, and then he went nuts, and I didn't have him. Last year, I didn't start him because he was 700K, and he had other ruckmen that were competing against him, or he wasn't the number one ruck. He was number one ruckman, but he was sharing it. Whereas I think this year he's not going to share that ruck time. It's going to be all him. So he'll go back to his best like he did 2 years ago. So for me, it's the Nank and English to start with.
Yeah, and I think that's a good combo as well, mate. And I love it. You always look at these crazy moves that always pay off, and that's why you're one of the best in the business. And I think Nank with the hot start definitely has to be looked at. Surprised he's so low owned, especially after what he did last year. And realistically, Richmond need him to go even better this year because there's no one else. He's the sole captain this season. There's a lot to like about I think Nank going into 2025.
Yeah, and plus he's all heart. Like he puts in. He's not a lazy ruckman. You know, you got those lazy ruckmen. You know, you see. I'm not putting pressure on other ruckmen, but you see players like Riley O'Brien that may not be lazy, but he looks lazy. Okay, but with Nank, he doesn't look lazy. You just look at him; he wants to kill someone. Okay, he has blood in his eyes when he goes for that ball. So plus the ball's going to be living in our back line, and Nank's going to be going into our back line to take intercept marks. So he's actually got upside to actually get more touches. And it's probably the reason why he averaged 120 last year, the back end, because our team was going so bad that he actually went into that back line and took all those intercept marks. And that's a possibility of why he averaged so well.
For sure, mate. And yeah, you are right. Like now, especially with Bolter, those first 4 weeks, like it may drop off a little bit as when he returns. But yeah, they're going to be relying heavily on him to go back and support because it's a very young key tools early on. So who else but the ruckman is going to drop back and support? I definitely feel the love there, and it's definitely a good call, mate.
Yeah, well, as I said, he's a lock. He's my lock. I've locked him anyway. And what is it, 1.5% or 1.8%? I'm not sure. It's actually below 2%.
I think it's 2 now. 2% now.
Is it 2 now? Okay. Well, he was actually 1.1% when I did his review. That's how low. No one owned him. No one touched him. I think we can blame Supercoach of the year because it went up to 2% because of his review. And maybe after you do this podcast, it might go up to 3% now. So we're going to blame you for this now.
Well, yeah, and you are right. I think from round 10, so that was 13 games for Richmond. He averaged 116 from that point on. So obviously there is growth there. for what he did overall for the whole season. Like what he averaged 110. So if you sort of that 116 range, if he could maintain that for the whole season, that's not far off what Cherry did. For the year, what did Cherry go 120? So
Yeah.
it's pretty close for a guy who's coming in at 50k cheaper than Cherry and 70k cheaper than Gorney.
And it's virtually 4 points is equivalent to one kick. So one kick in any position on your team. So there's 4 points is nothing. Okay, so and for a 50k difference, which 50k makes a big difference in your team, it's worth the risk.
Yeah, no, I really do like that. The last player we need to touch on is Jaden Short. To me, he's a burn man. Most Richmond supporters I talk to, he's either the whipping boy or he's the guy that they're like, no, I just can't. There's upside, but not enough to be top 6 or top 10. And feel like if you're picking him, you're not getting the making enough cash to make him relevant, or you're going to have to trade him out at some point, where non-Richmond supporters seem more bullish on him. How do you feel about Jaden Short, mate?
Yeah. The thing is, it's not actually Short himself, but it's the position at Richmond. The half-backs, people talk about Rioli leaving and Short's going to take his points. Well, Rioli didn't score that many points either. I mean, Rioli, I have to look at his averages, but it wasn't 100, I'll tell you that. I don't even think it was 95. It was well below. So the half-back position is actually a tough position to score from if you don't take kick-ins. I've actually looked at the averages, and there aren't many players that are averaging over 85 that don't take kick-ins at half-back role. So Short may have a few kick-ins, okay, but those kick-ins are pretty much shared. He's not the sole kick-in player like we see at like Whitfield. He takes all the kick-ins. Like we see at Melbourne, Day takes all the kick-ins. So Short for me, it's a massive risk, and I can't see any upside. I think you're paying for what you're getting with Short. I think maybe you might get an extra 5 points out of him. Okay, maybe an extra 10 points. But I don't think it's worth it because then you have to trade him out. You're not making much cash on him. So it's a big no-go. I run away when I see the name Short. I can't look. I have to delete straight away. I almost delete my app when I see Short in my team. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's funny how often I'm left with that amount of money and I'm like, oh, I can't put him in. He spent 5 minutes in my team when I was just like, oh, yeah, I've got to put someone in there. It's a great point you make about the kick-ins because the funny thing is, so Short, the game where he had the most kick-ins was against Port Adelaide. He had 9, and he played on every time. That he actually only scored an 81 that day. So if he's actually down in defence and getting kick-ins, he doesn't necessarily scoring that well. Hawthorn was the same, round 23, 8 kick-ins, 8 play-ons, 89. So his correlation between kick-ins and elite scores like some of the other great defenders that we have isn't the same.
Yeah. Plus, he's not a hard ball get type player. He doesn't get that hard ball or loose ball. He's not a tackling machine. He's more a receiver from the outside that may kick the ball to somebody. If it's a hard kick, he always misses it. It's only the easy kicks that he gets that hit the target, and those easy kicks don't score many points because they're very short kicks. So I can't see him averaging more than 85. That's pretty much what he's been averaging, maybe 88, but I can't see him going into that 100 zone. I just can't see it.
He's never done it. He's done 390, I think 398, maybe a 96, something like that. So that's where I think, yeah, he's possibly got 14 to 16 points on him. Cool. But you look at the top 6 last year, they're all 110 guys. And then we look at those 530 blokes, like Bailey Dell, who's I feel like it's got a little bit of value because of JJ and Caleb Daniel not being there. There's a couple other players in that situation. Sicily's another one where I'm like, I'd rather just pay the 90K more. Or there's a guy named Matt Roberts who is probably going to take kick-ins and has a better ceiling. And he's got the role in a team that's going to win way more than what, unfortunately, we're going to win.
Well, there's even Rivers. I had a look at him, and I don't really like that pick, but Rivers has probably got more upside than what Short has because Rivers is going to play in the midfield. So at least Rivers has more upside. You got some hope with Rivers that he might be able to go at 100, 105. With Short, that hope's not there. You don't have that. You can't get it. It's not going to happen. So that's why I would not include Short in the team. At least with Rivers, you can gamble and say maybe he goes 105. Short won't do it.
My also worry because I feel like the pressure is going to be on in our back line. There's going to be a lot of, especially the youngsters, bit of hot potato, getting that ball out, and there might be hack kicks where you get players like Whitfield, Zorko, they just seem to have a lot more time to make their decisions, hit up their target. That's why they're the best in the business. Where, if you've got that pressure coming on, it's harder to sort of kick a target, especially if you don't have a target up the line. And I regularly sit about 60 meters out from the city end, when I'm at Richmond games. My worry is I'm going to be sitting there and Jaden Short's probably going to pick me out once this season.
Well, it's called composure, and unfortunately, Short doesn't have it. There's no composure. It's a panic kick, like you mentioned, and the chances are out in the grandstand, you can take a catch, you can take a mark in the grandstand when Short's got the ball. It could go anywhere. Short's got composure when there's no pressure. When he's running, no pressure. Even those times he botches it up. Sometimes if it's a tough kick, he goes for that middle kick in the 1%. But the easy kicks, he has no problems. He gets those easily. That's where his disposal efficiency sort of goes a little bit higher. But those tough kicks, the pressure kicks, he hasn't got it. Unfortunately, I've seen it, and it doesn't happen.
Yeah, and I know everybody's saying because Rioli's not there, we're going to be worse. There's a lot more ball in the back line. But at the same time, you need time and space to make those kicks. And unless he's just chipping it around, which I don't feel like that's going to be the game plan. And I don't feel like that's him anyway. I feel like Vlauston, Broad play that more chip style than what a Jaden Short would. So I don't see here's a guy that's going to put 23 points on his average from last year.
Plus, he's not a Rioli speedster. Like, he's not going to take on 4 players, take a dash, take 5 bounces and go for a run and kick a goal. He's not that kind of player. So it's a complete different player to Rioli. He's more, he's not slow, but he's not ultra quick either. So he's not going to do what Rioli did. I can't see it.
Yeah, for sure. The last question, I hate asking this as a Richmond supporter. How many games do you realistically think we win this year? Do you actually think we win a game? And I know that maybe a few supporters might come after me for that, but I'm pretty realistic on where we're at. And we should all be. Like, we all know what the situation is. But do we taste that success this year, and how many could we possibly win?
We've got to take off the glass-colored glasses, whatever they're called, rose-colored glasses, whatever the saying is. And be realistic, okay? And let's be realistic. Who can we beat? Okay, which teams can we possibly beat? Maybe West Coast, maybe. Okay, maybe North Melbourne, but I can't see that happening. So we've got to have a day where one day everything goes our way. Okay, the opposition kicks 1,000 behinds. The umpiring, the decisions all go our way. 50-meter penalties when we need them. So everything goes our way. We may win 3 games. Okay, and that's, I think that's maximum.
Yeah, well, we won 2 last year with a better side. We do have North Melbourne and West Coast quite early on. If we don't win them, it makes it a bit harder. We do play them later in the year. I've had a few Essendon supporters message me thinking we might get them second time around. It's just the most Essendon thing to do on the run home, which wouldn't probably surprise me either. I'd probably enjoy that thoroughly. A few Carlton supporters have been worried about round 0, but they'll gamble responsibly, but the current odds is Carlton's $1.05 to win that match. So it's pretty, I feel like with the bookmakers there, it's a pretty safe bet for Blues supporters.
Yeah, if we can get within, if we have our season average at say 70%, I think we've done a good year. Even if we have 0 wins, but have 70% average, I think we had a good year. The thing I'm worried about is our average is going to be like 50%. And we're going to get smashed, especially against the good teams. And that's going to be a problem. And these kids, I don't know how they're going to handle getting smashed by 100-point games week after week. That's my only concern, because I've seen it happen before. but I think our coaching is good enough these days, and I think the kids will understand that it's just a learning curve, and they'll get better for it.
Yeah, they only have to have a look at, say, the Giants in their year, and that's sort of what we're trying to do. But you're 100% right. It is percentages. If you can be close in some games, especially at three-quarter time, I think it's small gaps. And if we're in games at three-quarter time, the fans will be happy with that. You know, you're going to tire. Young legs are going to tire. But, you know, if you know you can push some of the better teams for 2.5, 3/4, there's a lot to work there. But, yeah, from a wins-loss perspective, it could be a bit sad.
Yeah, I think we're going to be looking at small wins this year. Maybe win one quarter in one game, win one quarter in another game. Just a small wins. That's all we need at the moment as a rebuild anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%, mate. Well, Scott, thank you so much for joining me. What have you got coming up on your channel, mate?
Well, I've just put up a video just before I had come on this channel, and it's how to finish in the top 10, okay, or top 100. So I've done a little video there, and it's all come from my experience in not finishing the top 100, which is how I come up with it, because I've learned from all my mistakes. And sometimes you've got to make a million mistakes to then learn from those mistakes. And sometimes you do the right things and you learn from them as well. So I've sort of combined my mistakes with the things that I've done correct, and then compiled a little video with how to finish in the top 100.
Mate, I'd love that. I'd love to say I've been there, but I haven't. I feel like I might have been inside I was definitely inside the top 50 on the run home one year, but decided to go for glory instead of trying to just, you know, let's just finish inside that top 50. But sometimes you got to do that, and that's probably what you did when you finished fourth. Like, you're all in to win it, and you'd rather try to win it than, you know, just be like, oh yeah, well, I was on also run. So I think that's going to be a good strategy. It'll be a great video. Can't wait to actually watch that.
No, yeah, well, it's always top 10 or bust. There's no point finishing even 11th. It's got to be top 10. Okay, so what you did was the right thing. If you're 50th, it doesn't matter if you're 1000th. You've got to get into that top 10 because you got to give yourself a chance to win. And sometimes when petrol is what we spent all our petrol, got nothing left, we got to give it more. And it is what it is. You know, it doesn't always work out for us.
Yeah, the old Ricky Bobby's father. If you're not first, you're last. And that's, yeah, I think
that's correct.
100%, mate. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everybody who's tuned in. Continue to check us out for our team by team series. Like, subscribe, get on Scodfather, like and subscribe his videos, guys. And we will talk soon. Thanks, mate. Bye.
Bye.